My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 35. This morning I watched my sister cry outside a courtroom she wasn't allowed to enter. 6 months ago, I stood in a hospital hallway at 2 in the morning, listening to my sister's voicemail play over and over, while a surgeon waited for permission to save my 9-year-old niece's life. My sister was on a beach in Mexico. Her phone worked fine. I know because while my niece was rolled into surgery, my sister posted a photo of a cocktail. The caption said, "Unplugged." Everything between that hallway and this courtroom, the lie she told about me, the police at my door, and what I found hidden in a shoe box in her closet, is a story nobody in my family saw coming. Least of all her. Let me take you back to before the hospital, when I still believed my sister was just careless, not something worse. I'm a pediatric nurse in a small Ohio town. I take care of sick kids and tell them the truth a little at a time. It suits people like me, the ones who stay calm while everyone else is loud. My father died when I was 15. Vanessa was 18. At his funeral, our mother straightened our collars and said, "Smile. People are watching." That was the only lesson she ever taught us. From then on, my family split into 2 jobs without anyone saying it out loud. Vanessa performed the family. I held it together. When she got married, I wrote her thank you cards because her handwriting wasn't pretty enough. I was the fixer. I thought keeping the peace was the same as keeping the family together. It took a 9-year-old's hospital bracelet to teach me the difference. Vanessa's marriage lasted 4 years. Her daughter, Emma, was born near the end of it. The husband was gone before Emma could walk. Nobody ever asked more questions because in my family, questions wrinkle the picture. So when Vanessa called me in March and said she needed a favor, I said yes before she finished the sentence. I had no idea that yes would end in a courtroom. Vanessa dropped Emma on my porch on a Tuesday. 1 suitcase. A hug that lasted exactly as long as it took her boyfriend Ryan to snap a photo. 5 days, Cancun. She never asked if I was working that week. Then she was gone and there was Emma, 9 years old, holding her backpack straps like a parachute. My niece is polite the way kids get polite when politeness feels like survival. She apologized before opening my fridge, then rinsed her dishes and asked if she'd done it right. On the 3rd night, watching a show where a TV dad burned pancakes, Emma said without looking away, "Do dads always forget stuff? Mom says mine forgot me before I could walk." I told her some dads lose their way and none of it is ever the kid's fault. She nodded slowly like she was filing my answer away. Washing dishes later, something bothered me. In 9 years, I had never once heard my sister say Emma's father's name. My whole family had quietly agreed he was a closed door. 2 nights later, I stopped thinking about that door and started fighting to keep my niece alive. It started as a stomach ache at dinner. I didn't panic. But by 10, Emma was curled on the bathroom floor. By 11, she had a fever and wouldn't let me touch the right side of her belly. I've worked with sick kids for 12 years. There's a stillness that comes over a child when the pain gets serious enough that they stop complaining. I saw it, grabbed my keys and drove to the hospital with my flashers on. I called Vanessa from the parking lot. Voicemail. Again at check-in. Again while they drew blood. I texted in all caps, "Emergency. Emma. Call now." The scan confirmed it. Her appendix had burst. Infection was spreading. She needed surgery that night. The surgeon needed a parent's permission. I was not a parent. I was only the aunt. I stood in that hallway, a nurse who knew every step of this process, stuck on the wrong side of it. Then my phone lit up. Not a call, a notification. Vanessa had posted from the resort. A cocktail sweating in the sun. 1 word across the bottom, "Unplugged." I stared at that word under the hospital lights and something in me went very quiet. Hospitals have a rule for moments like this. When a child's life is in danger and no parent can be reached, doctors can operate anyway. Our surgeon used it without drama. But the hospital kept trying my sister anyway, and around midnight someone at the resort walked a phone out to the pool bar. I stood close enough to hear music behind her voice. A nurse explained everything. Ruptured appendix, surgery tonight. My sister said, "Fine. Whatever they need." She didn't ask which room or the surgeon's name, or whether her daughter was scared. She asked one thing, "She'll be fine, right?" Kids bounce back. Then she said she had to go. The surgery ran long. I sat in the waiting room in the same plastic chairs I usually walk past on my way to work. At 3 in the morning, the surgeon came out and pulled down his mask. I stood so fast the chair scraped the floor. "She made it, he said. We got lucky twice. I've been a nurse long enough to know what those words cost him. Emma came out of surgery small and pale, a tube in her arm. Before anything else, she asked, "Is my mom here yet?" I told her mom was far away and traveling was hard. It was the first lie I ever told my niece to protect my sister. I told more before I finally stopped. The next afternoon, I video called Vanessa from the hallway. She answered from a beach chair, sunglasses pushed into her hair, ocean behind her like a postcard. I told her Emma had almost died, that there was a morning flight, seats already checked. My sister scoffed. "She's just being dramatic. He does this every time I travel." The doctors handled it, didn't they? That's literally their job. I didn't argue. I just stared until the picture froze once, long enough that she got uncomfortable in her beach chair in paradise. "Don't make this a thing, Claire," she said and hung up. I stood in the hallway and opened the notes app on my phone. I typed the date, the time, and exactly what she'd said. I didn't know yet what I was building. I only knew somebody should write it down. Emma spent 5 days on the children's floor. My floor. I traded shifts. Our charge nurse quietly rearranged the schedule and never made me ask twice. I slept in the recliner beside Emma's bed. Every morning she woke, checked the door, and asked, "Did you tell my mom the room number?" Maybe she got lost. The social worker stopped by with her clipboard. "Has mom been reached?" I told her the facts. She wrote them down. We understood each other perfectly. My mother, Margaret, visited on day 3 for 20 minutes. She brought a balloon, photographed herself by the bed, and captioned it, "Our brave girl." On her way out, she squeezed my arm. "Don't turn this into something, Claire. She's her mother." I'd hear that sentence for months, like a bell that only knows one note. That night, Vanessa finally texted me directly. I opened it hopefully, flight number, arrival time, something. It said, "Ryan extended the trip. You've got her, right?" I added it to my notes, went back in, and told my niece another lie with a smile on my face. Emma was discharged into my care because there was no one else. I taped her recovery schedule to my fridge. My life reorganized itself around a 9-year-old, and it felt like the opposite of a burden. I cooked real dinners. I learned Emma hums while she draws. Houses mostly with big windows and curling smoke. I checked her healing incision and drove her to school every morning. She started sleeping with her door open. Meanwhile, 5 days in Cancun became a week and a half. A wellness cruise appeared. Then a surprise stop in Miami. Almost 3 weeks after her daughter's appendix burst on my bathroom floor, Vanessa finally came home, tanned, rested, and ready to be a mother for the camera. I didn't confront her. I didn't demand an apology. I handed my niece over with a packed bag and a typed medicine schedule because Vanessa was her mother, and that still meant something to me. I was still the fixer, and God help me, I was good at it. The reunion happened on my porch, and it was beautiful, and none of it was real. Vanessa crouched with arms wide, and Emma walked into them, because 9-year-olds always walk into their mother's arms. Ryan filmed it from 2 angles. By dinner it was online, captioned, "Reunited with my whole heart. After our little scare, I'm not letting this girl out of my sight." Our little scare. She still hadn't asked to see the incision. She still didn't know the surgeon's name. The comments poured in. "Supermom. So lucky to have you." 2 were from my own cousins. Here's the thing nobody tells you about a person like my sister. You're not fighting her, you're fighting her audience. Every clap for her performance made the truth harder to say out loud. I watched their car pull away, Emma's face small in the back window. I told myself the hard part was over. That's the fixer's idea of a happy ending. It lasted 4 days. Then my phone rang at 9 at night, and the name on the screen was Emma's. "Aunt Claire, can you stay on the phone until I fall asleep?" Her mom had gone to Ryan's for the night. "I'm old enough now," she said. I checked the oven twice. A 9-year-old, barely a month past major surgery, alone in an apartment, checking the oven twice like a tiny building manager. I stayed on the phone until her breathing slowed, then lay awake doing math I didn't want to do. It wasn't just one night. Over 2 weeks it became a pattern. The 9 o'clock calls, the whispered lists of what was locked, what was off. Then the clinic called me, not Vanessa, because I was the contact on file. Emma had missed her surgical follow-up. Vanessa hadn't shown up, hadn't answered reminders. I rescheduled it and drove my niece there myself without telling my sister. At the appointment, the doctor peeled back the dressing and frowned. The wound looked irritated, the bandage changed sloppily. "Who's been changing this?" she asked. Emma said proudly, "I do it myself. I watched a video." The quiet thing sitting in my chest since Cancun stood up and started pacing. 2 weeks later my phone rang at work. Emma's school, she'd gone gray and shaky, nearly fainted, was running a fever. They'd tried her mother twice and gotten nothing. Vanessa was 2 hours away at a brand wellness retreat. I clocked out mid-shift and drove too fast. The second ER visit in 2 months. The diagnosis: a surface infection at the incision. Treatable, but that word does a lot of quiet work. It meant a child's surgical wound had gone neglected long enough to get infected. While Emma slept off her fever, Vanessa finally texted back. "I'm slammed this weekend. Just take her." Like a package. Like a coat left somewhere. I read that message maybe 30 times and felt 20 years of excuses for my sister quietly get up and leave the room. 2 days later, Emma's school counselor called and asked to meet somewhere private. She slid a paper across the table face down. A drawing from a class assignment called My Family. A house with big windows curling smoke. On the porch, a woman in scrubs, my neighbor's tabby cat, and Emma holding the woman's hand. No mother anywhere on the page. "She asks to stay late in the art room," the counselor said gently. "She told an aide she doesn't like getting home early. I just thought a family member should understand the shape of things." I drove home and started a blue spiral notebook, the kind I use for work certifications. The date Vanessa left for Cancun. The verbal permission from a pool bar, timed and witnessed. Every 9 o'clock call. The missed follow-up. The infected wound. Just take her. Dates, times, witnesses. Past midnight, I finally did the math I'd been avoiding. In the 8 weeks since her surgery, Emma had slept at my house 31 nights. More than half her nights, at an address her mother's social media had never once mentioned. I closed the notebook and sat with my hands flat on the cover. I wasn't taking notes anymore. I was building a case. The caseworker visited Vanessa's apartment on a Thursday, following up on reports filed by the hospital and school, reports I never filed myself. Vanessa performed beautifully. Spotless apartment, refrigerator suddenly full, a candle burning like a stage light. But medical records don't care about candles. She wrote it all down, thanked her, and left. My sister came out of that meeting and got ahead of the story. By nightfall she'd called our mother, both aunts, a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years. The story: Claire called the government on me. Claire's always been jealous. Claire is trying to steal my daughter. My phone buzzed at 7 and didn't stop. I answered my mother's call. "How could you turn the government against your own sister?" I told her I'd called no one, that hospitals and schools are required by law to report. She wasn't listening. "You're tearing this family apart, Claire. She's her mother." There was that bell again. I said, "Mom, ask me what the reports say. Ask me one question about Emma." She hung up. Near 10, a text from Vanessa, sugar sweet. "Come get her tonight and grab school clothes from my place. Keys under the mat. Even a dog knows a treat can be a trap." I went anyway. Emma was there, backpack zipped, coat on, sitting like a child who'd learned to always be ready. I stepped into Vanessa's room for clothes and while folding a sweater, felt a small hand take 2 of my fingers. "Aunt Claire," Emma whispered. "I found something." I put it back so she wouldn't know. She led me to her mother's closet and on her toes, slid a shoe box off the top shelf hidden under sweaters. Inside was a bundle of envelopes wrapped in a rubber band. Birthday cards. Postmarks going back 7 years, all from the same town in Michigan, every one unopened. Across most of them in Vanessa's handwriting, "Return to sender." Except she'd never actually sent them back. She'd kept them stacked like trophies in a box her own daughter could reach with a step stool. The sender's name printed neatly in the corner, Ethan Reed. Emma watched my face. "Mom says my dad forgot me," she said, the same words from my couch 2 months earlier, except now she stood in front of 7 years of proof it wasn't true. I stayed calm. I photographed every postmark and put the box back exactly where it had been. What I didn't know driving away was that Emma had already made her own move. One envelope had migrated into her purple backpack. My niece, it turns out, is a Bennett. We document things. 48 hours later, 2 police officers knocked on my door on a Saturday evening. Emma and I were making grilled cheese. She was in charge of flipping. I opened the door with a spatula in my hand, and the older officer said words I'll hear for the rest of my life. Ma'am, we have a report that you took a child from her mother without permission. Kidnapping. My sister had told police I'd kidnapped her daughter. My phone lit up. Vanessa had posted again. A black and white photo of her own folded hands captioned, "Pray for us. Family can hurt you the deepest." 200 comments and climbing. Behind me the smallest sound. Emma sitting on the stairs, arms around her knees. She'd heard every word. This is the part one want you to hear because it's the part that saved me. I didn't yell. I didn't defend myself on the porch. I invited the officers in, offered coffee, flipped Emma's grilled cheese so it wouldn't burn. Then I opened my messages and slid the phone across the table. Just take her. I'm slammed this weekend. Come get her tonight. Keys under the mat. I set my notebook right next to it. The older officer read it once, then again, slower. Ma'am, he said, tapping the screen, we see this more than you'd think. There's no crime here. You can't kidnap a child her own mother texted you to come get. They stayed 20 minutes, wrote their report and left. No charges. But small towns don't read police reports. They read rumors. By Wednesday, a version of the story had reached my own hospital. By Friday I sat in an HR meeting that used the word temporarily. Temporarily reassigned off the children's floor, pending nothing in particular. My charge nurse fought for me and lost, then found me in the parking lot afterward, furious on my behalf. That was the day I stopped mourning the sister I grew up with. Her false police report was now a public record. Dated, filed, dismissed. Every lie she told from now on would be told on paper, to institutions that keep track. She was building my case for me. Laura Mitchell had practiced family law in our county for 30 years. She read my notebook cover to cover, flipping pages with a pencil, saying nothing. Then she took off her glasses. I can file for emergency guardianship on this, she said. Hospital records. A false police report. An unreachable parent twice. It's a strong case. But you'd be suing your sister. There's no version where you stay the nice one afterward. Your family will pick sides and you already know which side. I looked at the table. Next to the notebook sat the envelope from Emma's backpack. Ethan Reed, printed neatly in the corner, still unopened. It wasn't mine to open. But I'd carried it into that office like a small private promise. I thought about my niece checking the oven twice. I thought about she's just being dramatic. I picked up Laura's pen and signed. Then I won't be the nice one. 20 years of keeping the peace ended with one signature. My mother called that night, voice shaking. You are stealing your own sister's child. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't apologize. I said, no, Mom. I'm answering a door she keeps refusing to answer. The emergency hearing was set 9 days later. Family court is nothing like television. A small beige room closed to the public, run by a tired judge who's heard nearly everything twice. Ours was Judge Morgan. Vanessa arrived in a beige dress, tissue already in hand, costume and prop. Her testimony was a masterpiece. A single mother doing her best, and a jealous younger sister using a medical emergency to play house with someone else's daughter. She cried at exactly the right moments. Then it was our turn and Laura performed nothing. She handed up records. The verbal surgery permission from a pool bar, timed and witnessed. 3 weeks abroad while a 9-year-old recovered from a dangerous infection. The missed wound check. The infected incision. 31 nights at my house in 8 weeks. The caseworker's findings. The police report my own sister filed. Dismissed within the hour, her own texts attached as evidence. I testified for 11 minutes, mostly yes or no, looking at the judge the whole time. Judge Morgan granted me temporary guardianship. 90 days, review scheduled, supervised visits for Vanessa, plus a court-ordered family evaluation. Not a victory. A tourniquet. Outside on the courthouse steps, Laura lit a cigarette. Temporary means temporary, she said. At the review, the court asks a bigger question. Is there anyone else? Any other family? Is there? Vanessa answered, losing that courtroom by winning everywhere else. Her posts turned dramatic. Long captions about betrayal, about snakes at your own table. She never used my name. She didn't have to. Her followers did the digging, and my messages filled with strangers calling me a child stealer. I kept my head down and kept charting. Then my sister made her first real mistake since the police report. On a Tuesday, outside her scheduled hours, she showed up at Emma's school and had Emma by the hand at the bus loop before the vice principal caught up. "I'm allowed," she told the school. "I'm her mother." But the school had the court order on file. They walked Emma back inside and called both me and the court. Violation 1, fully documented. Judge Morgan issued a warning and tightened the visitation schedule. Emma was quiet at dinner that night. At bedtime she asked, "If she's not allowed to come, why did she come?" I gave her the truest answer I had. Because being told no is new for her. Near midnight that week my phone buzzed. "My mother, come to the house. Your sister's here. She's not okay." I went because 20 years of being the fixer doesn't come off with one signature. I found Vanessa on the good couch, mascara ruined, holding an old framed photo of us in matching Easter dresses, matching smiles that never reached our eyes. No camera this time and she knew it. "You think I don't love her?" she said. "Nobody ever taught me what love looks like when the camera's off, Claire." Mom clapped when we smiled. That's it. That was the whole class. For one long moment I saw it clearly. My sister at 8, learning that love was the same thing as applause. My anger sat down. Something sadder took its place. I almost reached for her. Then Vanessa wiped her eyes and her voice snapped back to its usual sharp edges. "My lawyer says judges always send kids home to their mothers. Whatever your little notebook says." She set our childhood photo face down on the table. "She's her mother," she said like a slogan. I stood in my mother's doorway and understood I was looking at a grief with no funeral. My sister was still alive and I was never getting her back because the sister I missed had maybe never really existed. I drove home and kept my face dry until my own driveway. The birthday card finally got opened on a Thursday in Emma's therapist's office. Emma peeled it open carefully like it was breakable. Inside, a cartoon fox holding balloons and handwriting careful the way men's handwriting gets careful when it really matters. "Happy 9th birthday, Emma Bug. I hope you still like drawing." I put in a picture of Peanut. She sleeps on my work boots. "I love you, Dad." A photo of a fat orange cat curled on a steel-toed boot slid onto the carpet. Emma read the card 3 times. "He knows I like drawing," she said quietly to no one. Meanwhile, Laura's digging kept turning up paper. Ethan Reed, 40, an electrician in Michigan, 11 years at the same company. 7 years earlier he'd filed for the right to see his daughter. The case simply died. Vanessa moved twice without a forwarding address. Papers couldn't be delivered, hearings kept getting pushed back until a man wiring factories for a living ran out of money to keep chasing a fight he couldn't even locate. His child support though never once stopped. Automatic through the state quiet 7 straight years. And every March a card. Laura laid it out on her desk. "Before you feel good about this, you need to understand what it does to your case. When a court decides where a child lives, family comes first in a strict order. Parents before grandparents, grandparents long before aunts. A fit biological father outranks even the most devoted aunt on earth. Right now you're winning," she said. "Mom's a mess. You're the stable one. But if this man is who the paper says and we bring him in, he doesn't join your case, Claire. He replaces it. Best case for you, you stay her beloved aunt with visitation. You won't be her guardian." She let it sit. "Right now you're the only person connecting these dots. His letters keep coming back. He has no idea his case is winnable. Nobody else would ever know." She wasn't tempting me. She was doing her job, making sure I saw the whole board before I moved. I drove home the long way. Emma was asleep in the lavender room I'd painted in June. Her drawings hung in rows. Houses, windows, curling smoke. The fox card stood open on her nightstand like a tiny tent. Everything I'd ever wanted was breathing quietly 10 steps down the hall, and I stood there with my keys still in my hand. Keeping her would have been so easy. All I had to do was exactly what my sister had done for 7 years. Nothing. Instead, I went downstairs and typed a name into the search bar. Ethan Reed, electrician, Michigan. I didn't drive to Michigan on a feeling. Laura checked him out properly first. Clean record. 11 years of steady work verified. 7 years of unbroken support payments, sent by a man with no real reason left to hope he'd ever be more than a line item to his own daughter. Then at Emma's next therapy session, the therapist showed me her newest drawing. Same house, same windows, me and my scrubs, the neighbor's cat, Emma. And at the very edge of the paper, half falling off, a new figure, tall, penciled in, not colored yet. She left him room, the therapist said gently. Kids almost always leave room. That Saturday I got up before sunrise and drove 4 hours north, radio off. I didn't call ahead. A phone call can be rehearsed, and rehearsal is my sister's whole medium. I wanted a real, surprised face. His house was small and neat, a porch swing, a work truck with ladder racks in the driveway. I sat across the street for 5 full minutes, gripping the wheel. Then I walked up and knocked. Boots inside. Footsteps. The door opened, and a big man with tired eyes and a cat winding around his ankles looked at a stranger on his porch on a Saturday morning. "Mr. Reed," I said. "My name is Claire Bennett. I'm Emma's aunt." I watched his knees actually go weak. His hand found the door frame and held on. At his kitchen table he set down a dented tin box that used to hold Christmas cookies. "I need you to see this before you decide anything about me," Ethan said. Inside were photocopies. A copy of every card he'd ever mailed, dated on the back in pencil in case someday he got the chance to prove he hadn't skipped a year. 7 cards sent. 7 copies kept. 2 boxes 300 miles apart. My sister's shoebox full of his sealed, unopened envelopes and his cookie tin full of their shadows. Neither box had ever known the other existed, until I stood in his kitchen holding both stories at once. He talked for an hour and none of it was a performance, and all of it matched Laura's paperwork exactly. The visitation case that slowly starved to death. The moves with no forwarding address. A filing that once claimed, with no report or witness behind it, that he was frightening. His hands flattened on the table at that part. "I stopped fighting in court," he said. "I couldn't afford to find her twice a year. But I never once stopped writing." In a whole hour he never once asked what this would cost him. He never badmouthed my sister to a stranger. He asked only one question first. "Is she safe right now?" Driving home in the dark I finally said the true thing out loud to the windshield. I hadn't found a witness for my case. I'd found her father. And fathers outrank aunts. We'd do this the right way because the right way was the only real gift I had left to give her. Ethan filed for custody in our county. Emma's therapist prepared her carefully over 2 sessions. Then on a Thursday, in a small room with a soft couch and a tray of sand, my niece met her father for 45 supervised minutes. He brought the cookie tin. He opened the lid. Emma, who trusts documents more than words, went through the photocopies one at a time. Then she unzipped her purple backpack and pulled out the real card, and laid it beside its own copy, auditing 7 years the way a 9-year-old audits anything, lips moving quietly as she checked. The room went very still. The first thing my niece ever said to her father after 9 years was this. "You spelled Emma Bug the same way every single time." Ethan Reed, 240 pounds of electrician, cried the way certain men cry. No sound at all, just his shoulders shaking, holding a juice box the therapist had handed him. I watched through the observation glass and felt 2 things at once. Real joy for her. And underneath it, right on schedule, the cold, quiet arithmetic of what I'd started. Every minute in that room was slowly writing me out of the middle of her story. News travels fast in a family like mine. By Sunday my sister knew. 14 missed calls, the kind you count because you plan to show them to a judge someday. I didn't answer any of them. Her post started an hour later. "They've let a stranger near my daughter. A man I protected her from." Protected did a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence, considering the shoebox. On Monday she went further. She drove to Emma's school during lunch, slipped through a side door propped for a delivery, and got as far as the cafeteria hallway, her hand around Emma's wrist near the milk line, before the vice principal stepped between them. The school went into lockdown procedure. Police arrived. Emma didn't scream. She did something worse. She went completely still and polite. Violation 2, this time with officers present and a child physically in hand. A protective order followed. No contact with Emma, none at the school. With the final custody hearing coming, Vanessa would only attend through her lawyer. Contempt of court now hung over her like weather. That night, Emma asked to sleep with her light on for the first time since the hospital. I sat in the chair by her bed until morning, my notebook open on my knee. I didn't write anything. Some nights you don't chart. You just stay. On Tuesday, a letter arrived at Laura's office from Vanessa's lawyer. Subject line, settlement. One condition, no Ethan. My sister wore beige again. She wouldn't look at me while her lawyer read the offer slowly like a fancy restaurant menu. Vanessa would voluntarily agree no trial to permanent guardianship for me, full legal forever. The exact thing I'd wanted so badly I'd painted a bedroom lavender for it. The family would issue a joint statement about a loving decision made together. Everyone's reputation stayed intact. In exchange, every mention of Ethan Reed would disappear from the case, all withdrawn. And I'd agree not to support his petition. Her lawyer folded his hands. Everyone keeps what they love, Miss Bennett. Your niece stays with you. Isn't that what this was always about? There it was, laid out on polished wood, the exact thing I'd wanted, gift-wrapped, one signature away. The price was becoming my sister. Keep the child. Bury the truth. Call it protection. That's the family recipe and I was raised on it. I let the silence stretch. It was Vanessa who couldn't stand it. Take the deal, Claire, she snapped. You win. Isn't that what you wanted, to be the better mother? I answered slowly because I'd waited 6 months to be this certain. She was never being dramatic, I said. She was being abandoned, and I'm not going to abandon her politely with paperwork the way this whole family does everything. I slid my notebook across the table toward Laura, along with the postmark photographs and copies for Ethan's lawyer. And I'll testify in support of his petition. Vanessa shot up out of her chair, palms slamming the table. For the first time in 35 years, I watched her perform absolutely nothing. You're giving her away? After everything you did to take her? Give away. A child, in my sister's grammar, was always just a thing that changed hands. I stood, pushed in my chair, and at the door I said the very last thing I ever said to her face. That's the difference between us, Vanessa. I never wanted to keep her. I wanted her to be safe. The final hearing came almost exactly 6 months after that hospital hallway. Same beige courtroom. Same tired judge. Doors closed to the public because a child's life is not a show. A lesson my family had needed 9 years and a court order to finally learn. The record spoke for itself. The caseworker testified, flat and fair. The school's files spoke. Dr. Carter's medical chart spoke, including that time-stamped permission with pool music playing in the background. Ethan's lawyer walked the judge through 7 years of unbroken support payments and 7 postmarked envelopes. Then it was my turn. I answered everything, including the question that cost the most. Did I want to raise Emma myself? With everything I have, I said. But that's not the same as what's actually best for her. The judge looked at me a second longer than the question needed. Near the end, Judge Morgan met privately with Emma, along with a special advocate assigned to speak only for her. No parents. No aunts. Whatever was said in that room stayed there. But when the clerk walked her back out, my niece was holding the Fox card flat against her chest, label facing out like a badge she'd decided to wear. Vanessa, by order of the court, could only be present through her lawyer. She came to the courthouse anyway, and we were all called back for the ruling the next morning. Judge Morgan read it in the plain, no-nonsense voice of someone doing serious work. Custody of Emma to her father, Ethan Reed, whose rights as a parent were now fully established, and whose plan to move to Ohio was already filed and funded. The court ordered continuity. Emma's therapy would continue, her same school would stay her school. I had to hold the railing when the next part was read. Ongoing visitation for me, now officially named standby guardian. Vanessa received supervised visits, on the condition she complete a parenting course with a full review in 1 year. Her rights weren't taken away. The court left her a road back, clearly marked and lit, the same road she'd left unwalked for years. I want to be honest. That mercy was the correct thing to do, and it still made my jaw go tight. Then it was over, the way enormous things end, with a gavel sound no louder than a stapler. Out in the hallway, morning light came through tall windows onto marble, and there she was. My sister, standing outside the closed doors of a courtroom she wasn't allowed to enter, filming herself, a video already half recorded. She stopped filming when she saw me. There was no caption in the world for this one, and she knew it, the first true thing her face had done in years. Mascara down both cheeks. You took everything from me, she said. 20 years of the fixer rose up in my throat, 20 apologies lined up and ready. I let every one of them pass by, the way you watch a bus you're finally done riding pull away without you. No, I said. You returned it to sender. I walked past her, down the courthouse steps, into the bright September morning, to where Ethan Reed was crouched at eye level with his daughter on the sidewalk. Emma was showing her father a drawing she'd made that morning. Nobody, anywhere was filming anything at all. It's been 6 weeks since that morning. Ethan rented a house 20 minutes from where I live. Turns out an electrician can fix things pretty much anywhere. Emma started the new school year with the same teacher, the same art room, the same bus stop. Her room at my house is still her room. That was written into the parenting plan at Ethan's own insistence, not mine, which tells you exactly what kind of man finally showed up. Recovery in kids isn't a movie montage. It's small and it's measurable, and I measure it because writing things down is love in my own language. She sleeps with the light off again. She opens the refrigerator without apologizing to it first. Her therapist moved sessions from weekly to every other week. The newest drawing, taped to Ethan's refrigerator, shows the same house with the big windows. And the figure that used to float half off the edge of the page is standing right on the porch now, fully colored in, holding a cat. My mother came by once in October with a casserole and no apology. On her way out she touched Emma's hair and said, "Your mother loves you in her own way." Nobody argued with her. The sentence just sounded different in that kitchen. Smaller, like a radio playing in another room. Vanessa came to her first supervised visit 20 minutes late, after filming a video in the parking lot before she even walked inside. She spent most of the hour telling Emma about a trip she was planning. She missed the second visit entirely without calling. Nobody said a word about it out loud. The file simply grew one quiet page at a time, the way files always do. As for me, the hospital put me back on the children's floor the week after the ruling, with a stiff little apology from HR that my charge nurse framed like a joke and hung in the break room. Now on Sunday nights there's dinner at Ethan's house. Last Sunday, Emma set the table and put out 4 plates for only 3 people. When her father raised an eyebrow, she straightened the extra empty chair and announced the new house rule like a judge reading her own ruling. The empty chair is for whoever comes back. Ethan looked at me across the table, and neither of us said a word because there was nothing left to fix. I'm not her mother. I never wanted to be. I am the aunt who showed up. And in this family we finally know exactly how much that is worth. I spent 20 years believing that if I kept my family looking whole from the outside, it would somehow stay whole on the inside. But a family isn't made of the people who share your name or your blood or your old photographs. A family is whoever keeps coming back. And the day I stopped protecting the picture and started protecting the child instead, I finally understood the one thing my sister was never taught. Love isn't a title you get to hold on to. It's a door you have to keep answering over and over again. That is my story. 1 ruptured appendix. 1 shoebox full of returned birthday cards. And 1 empty chair that finally means something good.